Hi, everybody. Right now, all but 4 states in the country face massive budget deficits. But with the Federal Reserve warning federal bailouts are not an option, states may start looking to financially sound neighbors for help. So should taxpayers in the fiscally responsible states be forced to pay more taxes to bail out bankrupt states? For what Americans are really saying, let's go to the Radio Rumble. Loretta Doan is here of Federal News Radio from D.C. In Colorado, you got David Sirota here, and radio host on KKZN AM 760. And from Florida, Mark Bernier, host of The Mark Bernier Show. First off, Loretta, to you. What do you feel? How do you feel about that? Healthy states helping out unhealthy states?
Well, there are about 48 of the states actually have some kind of a budget deficit, because you've seen that local and state politicians have used financial shenanigans for years to kick that budget can down the road. The question that I see is that given how important local and state governments are to the U.S. economy, when they come knocking at the door of Washington and Congress asking for bailouts, what are they going to do? I don't think it's right for Americans to have to subsidize poorly performing states. And at the same time, I think Congress needs to send a very strong message that states need and local governments need to, take their strong medicine, balance their budgets, and not look to the feds to cover the shortfalls. And
David, that medicine could be huge budget cuts. Do you agree? Should one state help out another state?
Well, the problem is a lot of the states that are in deficit, they get more back already from the federal government than they already put in, right? They pay more or they pay less in taxes federally that they get back. So the problem is that this is really a national problem. You can't break it up necessarily state by state. Texas has a huge deficit. A lot of Republican states have big deficits. Democratic states have deficits. So I don't think you can break it down as sort of a red versus blue or even a fiscally responsible, fiscally irresponsible state, because so many states have a problem.
And Mark, look at this. States on the brink right now nationwide. In 2011, U.S. states facing a shortfall of $72 billion overall. That is combined. There's going to be some massive budget cuts, and most people are going to feel the pain. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do, but I don't think that states that were fiscally responsible should be bailing out those that are not. I mean, tough. Florida has a constitutional amendment that requires a balanced budget. We're going to go back and trim another $1 billion out of our budget. We can't go over the line. We can't carry a deficit to the next year. You have to make cuts. We had a budget, Brian, that was all the way up to $73 billion. We brought it back to about $66 to $65 billion. It's painful, but you got to make the cuts. I say this: if you're going to bail out these states, there has to be a deal made with the federal government that not only are you going to change your evil ways, but you're going to pay it back.
Is there an advantage, Loretta, just to going bankrupt? Hey, we can't pay our bills. We can't balance the budget. Between a rock and a hard place with these unions, going bankrupt.
I think for a lot of the local governments, going bankrupt would be an easier solution sometimes than taking the hard stance and dealing with some of the public service employee overly generous pension plans as well as the union compensation. But that's not what needs to be done. Folks need to be really smart about this. They need to have cuts that are targeted, and they need to be timely. And they need to not use the Washington Monument type of excuse where, like Detroit is doing, where they threaten to overcrowd the classrooms in order to meet their shortfalls.
Closing half the schools and putting 62 kids per class. That's what the rumor is today.
How absurd is that?
We'll talk about that later. But listen to this, David and Mark. These are the states that have said we're going to increase taxes to pay our bills: Illinois, California, Maryland. I don't believe New York has committed to that yet, although that's why Andrew Cuomo has got approval ratings of 70%. Your take?
Well, my take is that it's in part a revenue problem. I mean, the fact is we need to have an honest discussion about taxes and spending. I mean, both of them are on the table. The problem is if you only go the spending route, you potentially don't use the government in any kind of counter-cyclical way to fight the recession. If all you do is cut and you don't you pull the government spending back completely, then you don't really prime the pump of the economy.
And Mark, real quick.
Hey, Brian. I have to tell you that California had an opportunity when Governor Schwarzenegger had that star power to raise taxes slowly, because they saw they were going to have a real problem down the road. But raising taxes is the reason why the South is growing so much. It's the reason why companies want to move to Florida. We don't have the income tax. We don't have the high taxes.
I got to leave it there, Mark.
Stop the
Mark, David, and Loretta,
spending.
great debate. We'll take it through the break, and I'll report how it goes on Twitter. Meanwhile, Steve and Gretch, take it away.